So today we're going to make a cordless shade using the new Pro Design cordless lift system, which consists of a spring unit, cord spools which we'll assemble and put the cord into, and a shaft which will drive the spools, and then a bottom bar which will allow us to finish off the bottom of the shade. We have our shade here. We've already marked the desired length of the shade with tape. This is a natural shade, so you should measure the length of the shade hanging up so the shade is under its own weight. And so now we're ready to start assembly. So the first step is to assemble the cord to the spool. So I'm going to tie a small knot in one end of the cord, and then I'm going to put it through the hole in the end of the spool and then pull it back into the slot like that. Then I'm going to put the end cap of the spool on to secure the cord in place. Then I'm going to take the other end of the cord and put it through the holes in the spool housing here. Pull that through. Then I'm going to snap the spool into the housing, making sure that the cord is secured at the other end from the holes. That way the cord will wind up. So there you go. So the next thing we're going to do is prepare the shaft for assembly to the cord unit. And so we want to insert the shaft, which I've already cut in half, into the end of the spring unit, and then using a 5/64 drill bit, drill a hole through the shaft. So now we're ready to assemble our components to the headrail with the spring unit in between the two spools. So the first thing we want to do is position the spool so that the cord is going to go straight down through the grommet in the shade, and then we're just going to put 2 screws in to hold the spool in place. Do the same thing on the other side, making sure that cord is lined up in the right position. If you don't get the cord in the right position, you'll create tension and friction on the cord, which will affect the way the spring unit operates. So I'm going to install the spring unit now in between the 2 spools. So the next step is we're going to insert the shaft through the spool and into the end of the spring, and then I'm going to hold it there with the locking pin. Do the same on the other side. And then we want to bend back the ends of the locking pin to secure the pins in place. So now we have all of the components assembled underneath the headrail, and we're going to turn our attention to assembling and attaching the bottom bar. So we now turn the shade over and we're working on the back of the shade to assemble the bottom bar. We've corded the shade, and I'm now going to place the bottom bar where it will be when the shade is finally assembled, and you'll see that the bottom bar has a slot or a groove on one side and is solid on the other. This side is actually the bottom, but I'm going to place it towards the top of the shade because we're going to turn this when we finish the shade. So where each cord comes down, we're actually going to cut a slit in the shade. So I'm just going to put a piece of glue, bead of glue along here where I need to cut, so that we can push the cord anchors through the shade fabric. I'm going to remove the bottom bar and then put another bead of glue right below the other one. And that is obviously to stop my bamboo material from unraveling once I cut it. Now we're going to cut the shade fabric carefully to provide the slot for the cord anchors to go through. So now we're going to insert the cord anchor with the drum down towards the table. And I'm just going to go through the front of the shade, out through the back like that. Do that on both sides. There we go. So now we're going to insert the cord anchors into the bottom bar. Just slide it along like that, and then I'm going to remove the tape on the underside of the bottom bar. And we're going to stick the bottom bar in place. So now I'm going to take the tape off the other side of the bottom bar and wrap the fabric over it. So now we're going to turn and glue the bottom bar so that the cord anchors are facing the top. So we just put a bead of glue along the bottom bar here. And then turn and secure the bottom bar. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut off any excess cord shroud on both sides. And then I'm going to take the cord and pass it through the top of the cord anchor and out the front of the cord anchor, like that. So now I'm just going to cut off any excess cord. And I'm going to tie a knot in the cord where it goes through the cord anchor. And it doesn't matter if I get this exactly level on both sides, because with this system you can level it after you've put it under tension. So we've now tied the knots in both cords and we're ready to put the cordless system under tension, so we're going to turn the shade over and remove the pin that is locking the spring. So the pin that is locking the spring is located right on the side of the spring here. So we're just going to remove that, and immediately the shade goes under tension. So now we have our shade under tension. You can see the spring system's working, but it's not lifting straight. So on this side, it's lifting a little bit faster than it is on this side. So we're going to adjust the cord on this side to make it a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to take this cord anchor and turn the wheel on this side to shorten the cord. If the shade is bouncing back a little bit at the bottom, so the spring may be slightly too strong for the shade, you can increase the tension on the cord and the friction on the cord by adjusting the screw. That will pull the cord out of the vertical position and will actually have the effect of adding weight to the shade. If the shade still is a little bit too light for the power of the spring, you can add weight bars into the bottom inside cavity of the bottom bar, and you'll need to put some double-sided tape or glue on them to hold them in place, and then place the end caps in the end of the bottom bar and you're finished. So now we've installed our shade just to show how simple and easy it is to do.